I didn't stop running until my lungs burned. The air on Nova was so dense that each inhalation scraped inside me. The ground vibrated under my feet, as if something enormous breathed beneath the surface. I didn't look back. I didn't want to see her. I didn't want to see her piloting that ship I thought was my only way out. I didn't want to see her transformed into something else. I didn't want to know. But Nova wasn't that big, nor that generous. The rock ended abruptly. I stumbled, fell, rolled down a steep slope of loose gravel. I stopped at the edge of a precipice, with one leg hanging over the void. Down below, ruins. More ruins. There were always more. I stood up with difficulty. I had a cut on my eyebrow, my hands were shredded, and my head was about to explode. But fear was still stronger than pain. I searched for shelter among the half-buried structures. I spent hours, or maybe an entire day, hidden among the remains of what once was a tower. I ate what was left in the emergency pack. I drank recycled water from the suit. I slept little. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Lyra kneeling before something invisible. I saw the creatures. I heard my father's voice, which wasn't my father's voice. I wanted to forget her. I wanted to hate her, but I couldn't. And then it happened. The ship returned. Not hers. Another one. Smaller. Noisier. It landed near where I had stopped to rest, right in the clearing on the other side of the ruins. It was an ancient capsule, of Nixian design, but deteriorated. It had signs of corrosion, impact marks, and symbols I didn't recognize. I approached by instinct. I crawled along a ledge to get a better view. The hatch opened. 3 figures came out. She was there. Lyra. There was something in her posture that made me stop. She didn't seem to have control. She didn't seem to be commanding anything. She walked with her shoulders dropped. In front of her, a taller figure, hunched over, advanced with difficulty, leaning on 2 smaller assistants. I couldn't hear anything. They were too far away. But I understood everything. She was answering for her actions. The gestures were clear. Lyra left something on the ground. I recognized it. Her bracelet. The same one she had said was broken. The one she had used to translate, to speak with me, to connect with me. The leader crushed it. There was no discussion. She didn't defend it. She just stood still. After a few seconds, the others returned to the ship. Lyra stood alone, standing, looking nowhere. Then slowly she turned and walked toward a crack between 2 collapsed structures. She disappeared. I could leave. I could keep running. But something pushed me to follow her. Not out of trust, out of necessity. I went in after her. The passage descended in a spiral. It wasn't natural. It was as if someone had molded it from within, as if the planet had emptied itself to allow this path. The walls had marks that lit up when I brushed against them. Organic shapes, almost technological. I walked for hours, or so I thought. At the bottom I found warmth, not physical. Another kind of warmth. Humidity, density. The air became thicker. The walls breathed. Everything seemed alive. And then I saw her. She was sitting at the edge of an internal abyss. A circular room, enormous, open like a flower in ruins. In the center, a glowing pit. Light that wasn't light. Concentrated energy. She didn't turn to see me. She just said she had imagined me dead. That if I had come this far, it was because I still wanted to understand. I sat a few meters from her. I didn't speak. I waited. She explained what she never told me. This planet wasn't a home. It was a biological prison. What I had taken for ruins were sealed systems, containers. Her family was trapped inside. They had been for generations, asleep, dissolved, suspended. She didn't want to wake them. She couldn't, not without activating the core. But the core demanded something she didn't have, a human consciousness, not just a body, an active mind, a mental presence. I was the access. And yes, she had hidden it from me, because if she told me, I would have refused, or I would have given myself up without knowing what it meant. And she didn't want to use me. She never wanted to. But she did. Everything that happened, the escape, the creatures, The ruins, the bracelet, everything was part of the process, part of what she needed to activate. She couldn't do it alone. I hated her for a moment. Then I didn't know what to feel. She looked at me then, for the first time in days, and said she was sorry. That I didn't deserve that burden. That she didn't want to break me. But I was already broken. I had been before I met her. She said I now could take me where I needed to go, where she had wanted to take me from the beginning, and that if I wanted to return to the surface, I was free. I said nothing. I just followed her. We descended further, through tunnels that weren't made for living beings. Everything was round, breathing, full of dripping liquids, lights that moved without focus. We walked over bridges of metallic bone, crossed chambers where remnants of things I didn't understand floated. We slept once, or twice. I don't know. I didn't care. There were noises, always. Sometimes something followed us. Sometimes Lyra would stop and touch a wall, murmuring in her language, as if asking permission. Finally we arrived. A living vault, circular. In its center, suspended over a network of roots, floated the portal. It was like a translucent membrane, but not liquid. A suspended opening, a threshold, and on the other side, I saw it. Green, blue sky, perfect mountains, life. Everything Nova wasn't. She said that was her objective. It always was. That her family was there, or what remained of them. That she had managed to rescue part of their consciousness from the ancient system. And that this place was real. Not a mirage, a safe plane. Separate from the rest of the universe. She said she couldn't cross alone. That this type of access required an anchor. A mind that remembered, a persisting consciousness. Me. I looked at it one last time, and without further ado, I took her hand. We jumped, and when I crossed, I understood everything. Not because I thought it, but because, for the first time, I wasn't afraid. It wasn't cold. There was no buzzing, just air, and silence, and her, next to me. We crossed. There was no impact. There was no sound, just the change. On the other side, the first thing I felt was the air. Light. Real. Breathable like never before. It took years off me. Then the colors. They weren't like Earth's. They were denser, more alive. Not unreal, but different. As if they had been born from another logic. The ground was soft, but firm. Covered by dark blue vegetation that seemed to absorb weight without sinking. The trees were tall, with canopies that rotated on their own following the light of two static suns in the sky. There was no noise, just wind. And the pulse of the place, a very subtle heartbeat, as if everything was in deep calm. Lyra didn't let go of my hand. She didn't say anything. She just looked at me, as if waiting for me to react first. I couldn't say anything. We walked. We advanced for hours through this new world. The environment was stable, safe. There were no signs of threats. In the distance, I saw soft structures, without angles. Houses, perhaps, or temples. They weren't destroyed. They weren't in ruins. They were part of the landscape. Lyra guided me to a stream of transparent water. She knelt and drank. I did the same. There were no filters, no systems, just water. There she spoke to me at last. She said this place was built centuries ago by her species, as a reserve, as a last resort. Very few knew how to reach it. Very few remained. And those who were here were survivors, mental fragments of what they were, recovered from the cores where they had been trapped. I thought she would be full of emotion. She was exhausted, not physically, inside. Then finally, I asked her what I didn't dare before. Why did she bring me? Just to cross? Or was there something more? She didn't answer immediately. She just sat at the edge of the stream and told me that at first, yes, that she needed a human. That was all. That she was just looking for a key. But then it was different. That when she heard me sleep on the ship, when we worked together on Nova, when we fought, or even when I distrusted her, she understood something she didn't expect. She said she had spent years among her species, centuries perhaps, and had never felt what she felt with me. Not because of who I was, but because of how I looked at her. Because of how I expected nothing from her. That had broken her. That had changed her. She said that when she saw me running on Nova, when she saw my fear, she thought about leaving everything, about not continuing, about remaining trapped as long as she didn't betray me anymore. But then she remembered her family, her parents, the children, and she had to continue. I told her that I also hated her for a moment, but that I hated her because I cared about her, because I didn't want to lose her. Not there, not in this world. And for the first time in the entire journey, she cried, without sound, without trembling, just clean tears that slid without resistance. I came closer and hugged her, not as one who forgives, as one who understands. We stayed like that for a long time, without words, because they were no longer needed. Weeks passed, or months. This world doesn't have days like ours. But we learned its rhythm. We built a shelter, a simple one, among trees with luminous sap. We used basic technology she rescued from her memories. We weren't alone. The consciousnesses of her species visited us, not like ghosts, more like projections, visible forms, with memories. They observed us. Some spoke to us, others didn't. I didn't understand them completely, but I was no longer afraid. The relationship with Lyra changed, not because it was different, but because we could finally be ourselves, without fleeing, without hiding. She taught me her language, little by little. I taught her human songs. We cooked together with what we found. We slept embraced without fear of what would happen when we woke up. One day I woke up and she wasn't there. I felt an ancient chill, as if Nova returned. I ran out. I found her at the same stream from the beginning, on her knees, with something in her hands. It was a sprout, a human tree, one that only grew on Earth. She had brought it, hidden, since before we fled. She had preserved it all that time. She told me she wanted to plant it here, as a sign that I also had roots. That was the day I understood this place was no longer hers. It was ours. Sometimes I wake up thinking it was all a dream, that I'm still on the farm, that I still have dirt under my nails and cold in my bones. But then I hear her breathing next to me. Precise, silent, like a metronome marking the rhythm of a new world. And I tell myself that even if everything collapses out there, I already crossed over. I already arrived, with her, where we were meant to be.